This is the MUSE-ON controller, made by GAMMAC in early 2009 for the PC. This controller was designed to be played with the PC rhythm game DJMAX Trilogy, hence the controller and box branding, and it having come out a few months after DJMAX Trilogy came out. This controller was $130 when it came out in 2009, with the limited edition being $150, based on pricing on PlayAsia. In 2012, GAMMAC upgraded the controller design and released the new MUSE-ON controller. This controller was branded with an EZ2ON Reboot design, another PC rhythm game, and was made to be played with EZ2ON Reboot. Also in 2012, they updated the original DJMAX Trilogy design controller and released a second new MUSE-ON controller, but with the original DJMAX look. I'm going to be doing a breakdown of each of these controllers, including an internal and external showcase and comparison, how they are set up to play, and what games could be played with them. I should mention I bought these used online, so they have some wear and tear as well as missing some miscellaneous items. The first controller to look at is the original 2009 MUSE-ON controller. The original box has a floral pattern design on the front and back, with a foil logo on the front and a non-foil logo on the back. The lid is held closed with a magnetic latch, and after opening the lid, there's a layer of foam with the controller manual and a controller layout on the inside top lid. Under the foam is the controller itself. It also came with a turntable sticker, which is already applied to this controller's turntable. This box should have also come with a sleeve that it slides into, but I do not have that sleeve. The controller has 8 buttons and 2 of these analog balls as well, which can act as joysticks or more button inputs. The controls are customizable, which I will explain later. The controller has a turntable which feels okay to spin. I don't think the sticker hinders it at all. On the side, there is a port for the foot pedal, which I do happen to have. This was an optional accessory that could be purchased or came out in the limited edition package, and it's all metal with a rubber grip on the top. It just adds one more input to the controller that can be used for anything, but for DJMAX Trilogy, it would most likely be used for the fever activation. It has a nice clicking sound when pressed as well. The original controller is USB only. PlayStation 2 support will be added in the next revision controller. To open the controller, there are 8 screws on the back. 4 are visible and the other 4 are under the rubber feet. On the inside, all of the hardware is visible. There is a very old looking mainboard with plugs that run to the 8 buttons, turntable, and joystick boards. The mainboard has a date code on it, March 22nd, 2009. The MUSE-ON controllers use arcade micro switches instead of cheaper rubber button membrane switches that would be found on any other game controller, such as Konami's beatmania IIDX PS2 controller. However, on this first revision of the controller, all of the switches have soldered-on wires, which makes changing them take more effort. The switches are branded with the name GAMMAC Company. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. I'm not sure of the actuation force of these switches, but the buttons and springs do feel pretty heavy, so it wouldn't surprise me if they were about 100 grams. They feel heavier than the 50-gram switches that I have. The buttons are very similar to arcade-style buttons. There is no nut to hold the button on, just 2 plastic tabs which could break off pretty easily. The top of the button removes in the same way an arcade button does by squeezing the 2 switch tabs together and pushing in. These springs also feel pretty heavy as well. I'm not going to be changing out the switches on this controller in this video, but I will be changing some switches later on in the video. Now it's time to move on to the next controller. This is the DJMAX branded new MUSE-ON controller. It comes in this DJMAX Trilogy branded cardboard box and has a foil design on the front. On the back it shows an image of the controller and a few other miscellaneous items. Opening the box reveals the controller held in with 2 pieces of foam on the ends. It also came with a manual and a turntable sticker. Between the original and the new MUSE-ON, a few differences on the outside are that the new controller now has PlayStation 2 support, and the KCC logo on the back is slightly changed. The KCC, or Korea Copyright Commission, changed their logo in 2011, a year before the new controller came out, so it's an easy tell which one is newer. These are 2 things to look out for when looking to buy one of these controllers. Since the new MUSE-ON is the better controller, look for the controller with the PlayStation 2 support and the KCC logo on the back, that is the new black and white one, not the old red and blue one. To see the real changes, this controller needs to be opened up. Everything inside is different. Every board has been updated with a newer version, and they all look more modern, especially the main board. All of the boards have date codes, April 28th, 2012. All of the switches are different and have terminals that can be removed to swap switches more easily. Even the buttons themselves are slightly different, but not by too much. The switches in the new MUSE-ON controller are the Starion SZM V6 FA11s. The operating force is 50 grams according to the official website, which I will link to in the video description. They don't feel that bad and could probably be left in, but over half of these switches on my controller were not working, so I decided to replace all of them. I had a stockpile of Omron D2MV01 1C3s, which are also 50 gram microswitches, and are commonly seen in beatmania arcade cabinets, but these switches aren't made anymore. I replaced all 8 switches with these. For easier access to the switches, there are 4 screws on the front of the controller, which can be removed with a 2.5mm hex bit to allow for the front plate to be removed to change out the switches. I had some trouble getting the panel out, as everything wanted to get caught on the controller frame. Now to move on to the last controller. The EZ2ON controller box front has similar foil lettering on the front, and this box advertises both PC and PlayStation 2 support on the front. On the back, nothing too noteworthy to mention, very similar to the DJMAX box. And the box internals are also the same as the DJMAX box, with the same exact foam holding the controller inside. Opening the controller reveals the same exact internals to the newer DJMAX controller, since they are both technically new MUSE-ON controllers. The exact same boards and buttons are visible on the inside, as well as the same exact Starion switches. At least all of these are working, so I kept them in. I'm going to play some sound comparisons between the 3 controllers and how the buttons and switches sound. I'll label each one with which buttons and switches are being used. The MUSE-ON controller design is very similar to Konami's beatmania IIDX PlayStation 2 controller. The MUSE-ON is slightly larger in all dimensions. With the beatmania controller, to change to 2-player mode, the key panel is removed with a button on the bottom, flipped around, and reinserted in order to keep the same distance between the turntable and the closest key. For the MUSE-ON, the whole controller just flips around, which is why there are 8 keys instead of 7. However, the distance between the turntable and the closest key are different between orientations. For the MUSE-ON in Player 1 mode, it's about 60mm. For the MUSE-ON in Player 2 mode, it's about 80mm. For the 2DX PlayStation 2 controller, it's about 70mm. And for an arcade-style controller, such as the Phoenix one, it's about 90mm. Time to move over to the PC and test out the controller with some games. First, I need to download GAMMAC's controller mapping program made specifically for this controller, which is called Triple Mapper. Thankfully, GAMMAC still has a download link to this program on their website, but I have it archived on my own site just in case theirs goes down. It works perfectly on Windows 11, which is what I have tested it on, and should work on every Windows OS all the way back to Windows 98. This program lets me keybind every button to anything that I want to, which is very helpful. I can even keybind the analog balls to be a mouse, or an extra 5 inputs per ball if I wanted to. In total, about 21 inputs can be bound to this controller, 2 on the turntable, 8 keys, 5 inputs per analog ball, and 1 for the foot pedal. Binding the controls is pretty easy. I usually start with a fresh profile and clear all existing inputs. Then I can just drag each key I want to the input that I want on the picture display, and it will bind that button. I'll save the profile and then hit apply. The controls won't go into effect until after I hit apply. The usual rhythm games will work fine, such as DJMAX Trilogy, DJMAX Respect V, EZ2ON Reboot R, and of course beatmania IIDX on the PlayStation 2. But because pretty much any key can be bound to this controller, with the right binds, almost any game can be played with this controller. That's all I have to show for this controller. It's a nice controller that feels like a hybrid between the Beatmania PlayStation 2 controller and an arcade-style controller, and having full customizability on PC is a big benefit. Just make sure to get the new MUSE-ON controller, not the original one. Thanks for watching.